Time to just say it, as Mercury enters Aries on Saturday, March 9th. This is a big deal because Mercury will stay in Aries for 2 months, going retrograde in April, and then playing a really important role in the upcoming solar eclipse. Let's take a closer look and break it down for all 12 signs. My name is Anastasia. I'm a traditional Western astrologer specializing in natal relationship and predictive astrology. If you enjoy my content, please take a minute to support me by leaving a like or a comment, subscribing, and pressing that notification bell. All of that helps. It puts my content in front of more people, encourages YouTube algorithm to promote it more. So thank you for that. You also have the option to show your appreciation by buying me a coffee, and that is really great. Thank you to everyone who has done that in the past or plans to do it in the future. Before we dive in, if you have important questions, if you want to understand what your natal chart says, what kind of gifts you have and talents, or what is your karmic purpose, you can book a reading with me at anastasia.astrology.com. Additionally, right now is a good time to talk about the eclipse season, to talk about eclipses in 2024, get a year ahead reading and find out what awaits you and how will your life be transformed throughout the eclipse season. If you are curious to know the important dates and you want some additional guidance, check out my creations, such as my 2024 Astrology Planner. It has 225 pages filled with information about the transits, astrological guides, journaling prompts, lunar phases, and so much more. Anything you need to find out which dates are good for marriage, for love, for business, which dates are challenging, and so much more juicy astrological information. You can find that on my website in the shop section. In the shop section of my website, you can also find my planetary creations, candles and oils. Since we are talking about Mercury, and Mercury is about to go retrograde for over 3 weeks in April, I highly recommend my Mercury in Gemini and Mercury in Virgo candles. Both of these are great tools during the retrograde because they were created while Mercury was direct and while Mercury was in the signs of rulership. So Gemini candle is perfect for problem solving, for seeing multiple possibilities, for being curious, for being good at communication and writing, something you will really need during the retrograde. It could be a lovely candle for anyone struggling with self-expression, if you're struggling communicating with your partner or people you love and telling them how you truly feel. Anyone born with Mercury in Pisces or Mercury in Sagittarius, the sign of detriment where Mercury may struggle, focusing on the details and being pretty concise. And if your Mercury is in a dark house such as 6th, 8th, or 12th, if it's in an aspect to Saturn or Neptune, Uranus, or Pluto. Happy aspects to Uranus I actually quite like. If it's a trine or sextile to Uranus or even conjunction, that's kind of like brilliance of the mind. But if it's in a square to Uranus or if it's in opposition to Uranus, you may deal perhaps with disruptions in communication. And Mercury in Virgo is a creation from 2022. I have less and less of those. I love Mercury in Virgo. I use it during my readings all the time. Sometimes it's like right there in the background, sometimes it's over there. But this is perfect for narrowing things down. If you're doing research, if you're digging deep, if you are editing a paper, you want Mercury in Virgo because it's very analytical, very precise in communication. These are both great, but I think they have different kind of energy. Mercury in Gemini is perfect for like research, gathering a lot of different information, versus this one is perfect for being precise, analytical, and narrowing things down. So check out my website for that. Let's talk about Mercury in Aries. So Mercury enters Aries late at 11:03 p.m. on Saturday, March 9th. And it stays here until May 15th. And this is unusual because normally Mercury spends about 2 weeks in a sign. It's sort of and done. So this time around it stays longer. And why does it stay longer? Because it goes retrograde on April 1st. At 27 degrees 13 minutes Aries, and then until April 25th. It's a rather long retrograde. A lot of times it's like 3 weeks. This one is 3 weeks and 4 days. So the retrograde begins at 27 degrees Aries, goes until 15 degrees 58 minutes Aries. So you will feel it the most if you have placements between, let's say, 13 degrees and all the way to 29 degrees of cardinal signs. And those are Aries, Libra, Cancer, and Capricorn. And the shadow period of Mercury in Mercury retrograde begins actually on March 18th. So what that means is that the work that you have done, the writing you have done, the conversations you've had, the papers you have submitted between March 18th and April 1st, when the retrograde begins, will need to be retraced, redid, redone, restructured, right? So let's talk about Mercury in Aries, and then talk about what's kind of coming up and why is this important a little bit more. Mercury is the planet of the mind. Mercury is the messenger. It is the planet closest to the sun. So it has that energy of like conveying important information, conveying what we care about, helping us communicate, helping us express yourself. Mercury, when it's placed in the sign of any sign besides his own signs, Virgo or Gemini, it has to behave in accordance to the nature of the sign. So Mercury placed in Aries conveys the message of Mars. It becomes a lot more direct because Mars is the planet of action. Aries is the fire spark, right? The new beginnings, the excitement. So when Mercury is by transit in Aries, we feel excited. We speak with more zeal, more passion. Is it zeal? I think it's zealous, but I don't know if it's like zeal. Never mind. But like we may notice that you're kind of more forceful in your communication. You feel like you just need to say it. You just need to express it. And I think I quite like this energy because Mercury enters Aries on the 9th, right? And we still have some time before the eclipse on the 25th. So it should give us the power to speak about what we want, to write about what we want, to just kind of get to it. Because between February 23rd and March 9th, Mercury has been in Pisces. And Mercury in Pisces could be very imaginative, but a little bit harder to focus. More go with the flow, more chaotic, more sort of just like confused and lost and daydreaming, right? And then Mercury enters Aries. We're getting close to Aries season. It's a spring, like, equinox. Things are changing. So a lot is happening, I think, with Mercury in Aries. So you may notice that you're speaking more directly, you're becoming more blunt, you're more willing to communicate your true thoughts, you're communicating faster. So of course, be careful that you're not hurting people with your words. Not everything needs to be said. Although when Mercury is in Aries, you may feel like everything needs to be said, and it's better to be brutally honest than anything else. And it's funny because I have Mercury in Libra in the opposite sign. So sometimes I'm like, you guys just need to chill a little bit when people have Mercury in Aries. If you have this placement, let me know. Do you feel like sometimes you come across as too like brash and direct and blunt, and people maybe react too sensitive to your words? So you may be more interested in starting new projects. Your thoughts kind of go towards new beginnings, towards exciting ideas. You're more pioneering. Your speech will feel more confident, I think, which is great for leading and gathering people together and sort of marching your band, marching your troops towards a new goal. You may sort of learn through fights with people, or you may like enjoy kind of playful banter and like a little bit of conflict debate, right, in communication, and prioritize new thoughts, prioritize new projects, which of course can be a little bit difficult if you have work that gets a little bit stale and boring and you still have to finish it. So you gotta keep, you gotta make sure that maybe you figure out a way to keep old projects still exciting and to keep going on them. On March 10th, pretty much immediately, Mercury will sextile Pluto in Aquarius. That is quite nice because Mercury in Aries aspecting Pluto in Aquarius. Aquarius is the airy ideas, the airy information, the scientific, futuristic ideas, and kind of spark of those ideas can set the fire within you and can encourage you to explore them, to take action on them. So there is like a connection, I think, of the mind with the action, which Mercury represents. You're feeling more focused, you're feeling more kind of intuitive, better at problem solving, better at research, better at leading. And then, of course, an important transit will happen between April 1st and April 25th, and that is when Mercury goes retrograde. And this is really important because Mercury will be retrograde most of April, and we are having an eclipse coming up on April 8th in Aries. What's interesting is there's going to be another eclipse in Aries next year, and Mercury will be retrograde again during that eclipse. So the eclipse in Aries is a suggestion of new beginnings, but Mercury being retrograde is a suggestion that new beginnings come out of addressing something from the past. So I started this video by saying, just say it, right? So very much the energy of just saying it. And it's likely something coming from the past, a partner coming from the past, right? If you're a Libra rising, this is happening in your 7th house. If you're a Sag rising, this is your 5th house. So people coming into your life from the past, addressing problems you haven't fixed from the past. If you're a Capricorn, maybe you're moving somewhere you used to live. So like there's a lot of new beginnings, but they involve a little bit of like retracing steps. And that's why Mercury in Aries is very important. And I think that energy of like, you know, we have South Node in Libra, we have North Node in Aries. We'll have so many planets in Aries at the same time as the eclipse season. And there is just like a sense of like stepping away from people pleasing and stepping away from relying on other people and being indecisive. And so your communication can be very much reflecting that as you are being like, you know what, actually, I don't like this. Actually, I never told you, but I have been thinking this for a while and I want to kind of air things out and tell you how I feel. So it's an important transit and it's important to keep track and pay attention, especially from around March 18th when the shadow period begins. And then, of course, between the 1st and the 25th, we have the retrograde full speed ahead. So let's take a look at the 12 signs and give you some clues on what is getting activated in your chart, what kind of themes will be present for the next 2 months. To remind you, Mercury is in Aries between March 9th and May 15th. And that includes Aries season, the entirety of Aries season. That includes Aries eclipse. So Aries is like a busy sector of your chart. I recommend listening for your rising sign, because that's the way most astrologers write horoscopes. Rising sign lets us know where the transits fall in. It tells you where the entrance to the chart is, and then you sort of count it from there. You can, of course, listen for your sun or your moon if you feel like those horoscopes resonate with you more. If you are an Aries rising, Mercury is entering your 1st house and later is going retrograde in your 1st house. You have had Mercury in your 12th house since February 23rd. And until March 9th. You may have been a lot more introspective. You may have felt a lot more private, where your thoughts were more internal and you have questioned you have sort of even been completing things in your life, right? You have been closing chapters, letting go of people, letting go of professional pursuits, letting go of old beliefs. And now that Mercury goes in your 1st house, you are ready. You have arrived. You're ready to speak. You're more likely to talk about yourself. You're more likely to talk about your health, about your fitness level, about your goals, right? You may realize that now you want to go running, or you want to like hire a personal trainer. You want to go to the doctor. You want to figure out like a new way of doing things in your life. And you may also be reinventing yourself after you have done all this process of letting go. So it's a great time to book an astrology reading with yours truly, but it's a really good time to kind of go within and understand what you want and speak about your desires. Maybe tell your partner, tell your boss, present this new upgraded version of you. And then when Mercury goes retrograde in April, you may have to redo some of this work, right? Like you may have to rethink your skincare routine, rethink your style, rethink your hair color, and make some updates to your environment, to the technology you use, to the clothes you wear based on who you're trying to be and what you're trying to achieve. And if you'd like to know more, book a reading with me at anastasiadoesastrology.com to find out what eclipse season, what the rest of the 2024 has in store for you, or for me to look at your natal chart. If you are a Taurus rising, Mercury is entering your 12th house. And Mercury in the 12th house is a lot more introspective. Chances are that your mind is still going to be quite busy, but a lot of what's happening is you are looking within, you are understanding yourself, you're becoming more clear about your self-defeating patterns, about your self-defeating tendencies, you're becoming more clear about your bad habits, you're becoming more aware of what kind of interests you have that you haven't integrated. Perhaps there is a spiritual pursuit, astrology, that you really, really enjoyed, but you're not talking about it. So Mercury being in the 12th house for the next 2 months will give you a chance to dive in, to maybe, explore them. You may also be taking action towards spiritual pursuits. You may be writing something. You may be studying yoga. You may be getting away and resting, or getting away and investing into your spirituality. Other people might feel like you're sort of kind of gone, you're not there and your life is maybe quiet, but in reality there's a lot going on, a lot of exploration of interests, a lot of maybe even work and therapy and healing, but you're not necessarily speaking up about it. I think you may be writing about it, you may be journaling about it, you may be filming videos about it, but you're not yet posting them. And when Mercury goes retrograde in April, all of that will become even more pronounced, as your need for release, your need to let something outdated go, your need to become a better ally to yourself, your need to implement spiritual practices in your life will become even more pronounced. And if you'd like to know more, book a reading with me at anastasiadoesastrology.com. Eclipse season is a really good time to check in and find out what's ahead for you. If you are a Gemini rising, Mercury is entering your 11th house. So for a while, since February 23rd until March 9th, Mercury has been in your 10th house of career, status, reputation. You may have examined your desires in that sector. You may have reached out to people, asked important questions, and now Mercury is entering your 11th house for 2 months. And you are questioning your connections. You are taking action in your social environment, right? Like if you have realized that you want a certain job, Mercury going into your 11th house could suggest that you're now talking to your friends about it. You're sending more emails. You are chatting with people. You may notice that people are bringing you more secrets, that you're suddenly getting all these news of who knows who does what. Your friendships may become more pronounced. Your social media game might become more active. Let's remember, it's Aries, it's new beginnings, it's new, fresh energy, and you are starting social media accounts, you're starting podcasts, you're starting web series, you're reaching out to people, you're more social, friendly, chatty, you're talking about kind of your goals and your community and becoming more passionate. When Mercury goes retrograde in April, you may need to redo some of the work that is connected to social media. You may need to examine some friendships. You may notice that a friend is going through a more difficult time, requiring more of you, requiring more understanding, or requiring more adjustment in your friendship. And some of your dreams may need to be examined, and some of the old projects that you haven't given enough attention to are likely to come back around and sort of become the focus of your mind for a little bit. And if you'd like to know what's ahead for you personally, and you'd like to check in and find out what the eclipse season has in store, book a reading with me at anastasiadoesastrology.com to find out more. If you are a Cancer rising, Mercury is entering your 10th house, starting the busy 2-month period of professional adjustment. So So Mercury in the 10th is like a new beginning in your career. It is the start, right? We're going to have the eclipse here. We're going to have the sun here after March 19th. But like, you're starting to think about your career. You're starting to talk about what you want. You're exploring new ideas. It's like fresh spring energy. You're ready to take action. If you have been thinking of something like writing a book or starting a business, Mercury coming here might mean that you're like, you're starting to send emails, you're starting to apply for things, you're starting to be more kind of active. Your mind, your knowledge, your words become more prominent professionally, and perhaps you are speaking at conferences, you're writing papers, you are questioning how can you, become a translator, an interpreter, a salesperson, like anything that is very mercurial, travel, commerce, Mercury, be with me now. But yeah, like, so, like there's more professional communication, there's more involvement with colleagues, there is more exploration of new ideas. And then of course with Mercury going retrograde in April, you may need to rethink some of that progress. You may need to review some of the work that you've done. You may need to, re-edit, rewrite, reassess, and perhaps question your progress and figure out whether that progress is aligned with your goals and authentic. Maybe reach out to someone from the past, maybe return to the job that you once had, or retrace your steps in your mind and figure out whether what you're doing right now is aligned with what you set out to do, right? A lot of times retrograde is quite powerful in bringing us back to the original goal, original kind of dream. And if you'd like to know more, book a reading with me at anastasiadoesastrology.com. Eclipse season is upon us, and it's a good time to check in and find out what the universe has in store for you. If you are a Leo rising, Mercury is entering your 9th house for the next 2 months. So here we're looking at your mind, at your ideas, at your knowledge, right? So Mercury in the 9th house can fire you up. And it can be the time when you are ready to speak up, you're ready to share, you're ready to write, you are publishing your work, you're typing aggressively on the keyboard, you are maybe brainstorming content ideas, right? There's like fresh new beginnings, considering to go back to school, new trips are also possible, new connections, sort of like teachers, students, classmates coming into your life, hanging out more with them. Your mind is oriented towards growth. It's more interested in improvement and exploration of new ideas, right? So traveling is quite likely, relocating is a possibility, especially when Mercury goes retrograde between April 1st and 25th. You may be traveling back to a place you once were. You may need to retake some exams, resit some exams, right? You may need to revisit some legal matters if you have signed some contracts or you have been kind of involved in some kind of legal situation. It may need to be rehashed, revisited. I think on another level, if you are in writing, if you're in publishing, you may need to rewrite some of that. But on another level, it's a very kind of philosophical transit too, because 9th house represents our beliefs and our ideals. So I think Mercury in the 9th is encouraging you to reconnect with what you believe and to be more brave, I think, to be more courageous in terms of expressing that. So the retrograde may initially highlight some doubt and will encourage you to make some adjustments, but in the long run, there's that invitation there to just say it, just do it, just go for it. And if you'd like to know more, book a reading with me at anastasiadoesastrology.com. The eclipse season is a really good time to reach out and to look at your year ahead and how your chart is activated and what's coming up for you. If you are a Virgo rising, Mercury is entering your 8th house and you are getting ready to pay taxes, to pay off debts. You're talking about money, you're talking about agreements, you're maybe starting partnerships with your significant other, or you're starting a business collaboration, a writing collaboration. You can be the one who is the leader, or you can be the one who is sort of handling financial matters in that partnership right now. You may be talking with your significant other about starting a joint bank account, about getting a mortgage. You may be talking about fairness and being an advocate for other people. You may be healing, because 8th house is also the place of sudden events, of trauma, of things that are hiding and like haven't been addressed. So there could be a lot of external financial action, internal spiritual action. Mercury goes retrograde between April 1st and 25th, and you are needing to rethink your financial strategy. So if you are negotiating some kind of contract, right, or business partnership, Mercury going retrograde could be an invitation to slow down and revisit the points of the contract and maybe renegotiate. If you are paying off certain debts, the retrograde could bring up some debts you forgot about. It could not, I always kind of advise that people don't rush spending money at this time, because the retrograde in the 8th house could be like, oh, here's a big tax return, but then, oh, here is a dental bill that you need to pay. So it's very much like money comes in and the retrograde turns it back around and it goes out. So you got to be careful. But very much like the time to take it slow, to question whether things are fair, to speak up about your needs, about your desires, to be more honest and start partnerships that are equal, that are independent, that are, where you don't have to sacrifice anything. And if you'd like to know more, book a reading with me at anastasiasastrology.com. It's a great time to check in. Eclipse season tends to be a more potent, more busy time of the year, so it's a good time to contact an astrologer like myself. My beautiful Libra risings, Mercury is entering Aries, which is your 7th house of relationships, on March 9th, and will stay there for 2 months. And your mind goes towards relationships. It goes towards your business, towards contracts and agreements and partnerships. So this could suggest that you're dating more. This could suggest that you're dating mercurial people, chatty, intellectual, technically savvy, right? Business people. It might suggest that you're negotiating more, that you are taking business action, right? Like maybe incorporating or looking for clients, becoming kind of like more proactive, I think, both about your relationships, but also about your business. And then when Mercury goes retrograde, you may need to examine some of the relationship agreements you have. You may need to examine your business strategy. You may need to examine your work with clients. You may need to redo some of the business work, rewrite some contracts, right? It's not the best time during the retrograde, April 1st to April 25th, to sign contracts and agreements, but it could be a good time to talk about them, to draft them, to edit them. And because we have an eclipse coming up here, it could also suggest that there's changes in your relationships that can involve an ex coming into your life, or they can involve revisiting an old kind of topic and talking about something that you have already talked about, a conflict you thought was done, maybe something you have noticed a long time ago but you never spoke about, bringing that back around. And also in terms of business, right, there could also be projects you haven't given a full shot in the past, or projects that you're bringing back to life, and clients that are coming back that you haven't talked to in a while. And if you'd like to know more, book a reading with me at anastasiasastrology.com. Find out what eclipse season has in store for you, what the rest of the year has in store for you, and ask me any of your burning questions. If you are a Scorpio rising, Mercury is entering your 6th house. Mercury in the 6th is quite lovely for problem solving. It's very direct. You may be the person who is kind of handling work drama and speaking on behalf of your colleagues, and being very passionate, very direct, very sort of assertive, and using your speech to figure things out. You're maybe becoming more organized. You may be becoming more interested in health. Suddenly you start researching better diet and better exercise routines, and you are gearing up to change the way you exercise potentially. When Mercury goes retrograde between April 1st and 25th, you will potentially need to revisit some of the things you have solved, right? Maybe you haven't solved them fully. Maybe there is some work drama that is coming back around. Maybe there are some projects you have finished that you need to take another look at. Maybe there is some kind of disagreement in your work environment or some kind of frustration you have been feeling that is now calling you to make the changes necessary, as well as like health and diet and exercise routines. All of that will be under a microscope during the retrograde too, and you may be trying to find ways to fine-tune, to improve, to adjust the way you approach your health and wellness. And also, if there are any kind of disagreements with colleagues, if there are any problems with bosses, if there's any dissatisfaction with your work, retrograde will encourage you to address it and fix it eventually. And if you'd like to know more, book a reading with me at anastasiaastrology.com. It's a great time to find out what's ahead for you because the eclipse season is here, and to ask me important questions. If you are a Sagittarius rising, Mercury is entering your 5th house, and you're starting to talk about pleasure. You're starting to talk about love. You're starting to go on more dates. You're becoming more playful. You may be more interested in dating people who are communicative and chatty and intellectual, maybe even people who are childlike or who have kids. You're maybe more creative even with Mercury in the 5th house. Like your mind can be inspired. You may be learning something about your passion projects your kind of hobbies and interests. When Mercury goes retrograde, you may temporarily feel a lack of spark. You may feel a lack of inspiration in your fun activities you once found fun. You may feel a lack of spark in your romantic relationship. You may encounter an ex or two coming back into your life, and you will need to figure things out. You will need to perhaps rediscover that inspiration, rediscover that spark, go back to what you used to do, what you loved to do as a kid, bring back some of the old passions and old hobbies, go on dates, maybe retrace your steps and have more first dates with your significant other that you've been together for a while. So there is, there's kind of an invitation there to be more playful and to have more fun. So this retrograde can be quite exciting for you, I think. And if you'd like to know more, book a reading with me at anastasiaastrology.com and find out what the retrograde and what the eclipse season has in store for you. If you are Capricorn rising, Mercury is entering your 4th house. And if you have been thinking about where you live, if you have been questioning where you're going, have been sort of dealing with some living situation confusion, Mercury in the 4th house will be the time where you're more likely to take action. You may talk a lot more and think a lot more about property, about family, about children, about living together with your partner. You may talk a lot more to family. There might be, a lot more conversations in the house versus kind of like in public sharing your opinions. You're becoming a lot more, I think, like insular and private. And then when Mercury goes retrograde in April, you may need to rethink where you live. You may need to rethink boundaries. You may need to rethink agreements and renegotiate some kind of relationships you have, as well as maybe move, redo, redesign, redecorate. And because it's the retrograde, a lot of times we may be kind of looking back and retracing our steps. So moving back to the place you once were, addressing some kind of situation in the family that is maybe old, healing the past, rediscovering yourself, questioning who you are, questioning how you belong, where you belong, what comfort is, and based on that, making decisions about your future home, about your future relationship is quite likely here. And if you'd like to know more, book a reading with me at anastasiaastrology.com. You can find out what eclipse season has in store for you and discover what your talents are if you book a natal chart reading, as well as what your karmic purpose is. If you are an Aquarius rising, Mercury is entering your 3rd house for the next 2 months. So here you are, I think your schedule, your mind is speeding up. You're exploring new ideas. If you are a creative individual, this could be the time when there is new writing projects, new skills that you're learning, new passions, new hobbies, right? You're taking exams, you're going on more trips, but your mind is just sort of fiery and you're starting to wonder how can you best use your knowledge, right? So applying for new jobs, learning new things, starting a business, starting a blog, starting a journaling project is all quite likely here. Same as working with siblings, connecting with neighbors, getting more involved with the community. And then when Mercury goes retrograde in April, you may need to rethink some of that. You may need to rewrite something. You may need to talk to your siblings or your neighbors about things that have been bothering you and address some tension. You may need to re-edit some of your work, also take some exams that you have once took. Traveling back somewhere is a possibility. If let's say you went on vacation and now you're getting ready to return, April might be the time when you're returning somewhere or returning to a place you once were. And yeah, like redoing some business action, redoing some documentation, rethinking, re-editing is a possibility here, as well as addressing some sibling, neighbor, roommate tension. And if you'd like to know more, let me know. You can book a reading with me at anastasiadoesastrology.com. Find out what the retrograde and what the eclipse season have in store for you. Now, if you are a Pisces rising, Mercury is entering your second house, and you may be thinking, talking more about money and about values, about things that are important to you. So conversations have a bit more serious tone. They can be a little bit more, you're feeling more passionate, you're getting more direct. You're just sort of, this is what I want. I want to make more. I'm ready to take more responsibility. Pay me more. Or maybe you're kind of, you're making money through writing, through sales, through your speech. You're maybe going to more networking events. You're maybe speaking in public. Another example would be like sort of being a lawyer and speaking more, going to court more, right? Like there's a lot more communication that is a part of your finances, part of your job. Writing more, taking financial action, right? Paying taxes, paying off bills. When Mercury goes retrograde in April between the 1st and 25th, you will need to potentially redo some of that work. You will need to revisit how you spend money. You may need to pay a bill that you forgot about. Mercury retrograding in the second house is always like, there's always like a warning. Be careful making big purchases, because when Mercury enters your second house, you may have some money coming in. When it goes retrograde, this money is likely to go out. So if you have already spent it all and then suddenly a bill comes in, or some kind of urgent need to spend money comes in, you may not have it. So you really need to be careful. And Mercury going retrograde here could be the time to start saving, to set some money aside, to rethink your insurance, to talk to a financial advisor, and to maybe like revisit some of your values and some of the things you hold important and make some adjustments there. And if you'd like to know more, book a reading with me at anastasiadoesastrology.com to find out what this eclipse season, what the Mercury retrograde, what a lot of action in April and May has in store for you. And this is it. Thank you for being here, for watching, and for supporting me. I really appreciate you, every single one of you, and especially people who leave comments and give me likes, all of that kind of stuff. So thank you again, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.